This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for November 28th, 2024. This is season 14, episode number 23, and this is episode number 462 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy start to the holidays, even though the holidays started Halloween time for me, but happy start to the holidays for you and your family. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is going to be a fun show. I'm putting this up Wednesday evening after the Danbury Hat game and for the Binghamton Black Bears as they host Danbury on Wednesday evening, the eve of Thanksgiving. You guys might be listening to this on Thanksgiving. You might listen to it on Black Friday before the Watertown series. Either way, thank you very much for tuning in and listening to the show. I have what I think is a very good show planned for you. Our guest is Jeff Barrett, who is the broadcaster for the Watertown Wolves. We've talked to him before here on the Power Play Post Show. He's going to give us some insight and some in-depth analysis about the Watertown Wolves and why they're playing so good. So that's pretty cool. A little bit later on, after this segment, you'll hear my thoughts on the Danbury Hat game from last night. So stay tuned for that. I'm not sure because I'm recording this segment here on Tuesday evening, this main start of the show here on Tuesday evening. But on Wednesday after the game, I'm going to come home and record 10, 15 minutes, maybe just 10 minutes on my reaction of Game 2 of Brant Sherwood being suspended and how the team does. They've had a little bit more time to adjust to having Cam Clark gone. Blake Tosto gone. Kyle Stefan is, now by the time you guys are listening to this, he would have served his final game. He'll be back for the Watertown series. So either way, this is a show that's a little going to be all over the place, but this main segment here will be about the Watertown Wolves and the Binghamton Black Bears. This is an important weekend, I think, for both teams. The Watertown Wolves sitting right now in first place in the Empire Division before the Danbury game. If they beat Binghamton in regulation, both games, they're going to pull ahead a little bit above the Binghamton Black Bears, and that'll put the pressure on the Black Bears, right? Because last year, they were basically in first place in the Empire Division all season long, and they had their way of the division. This year, we'll see what happens after this upcoming weekend. So these are big two games. And now, if you remember a few weekends ago or a few weeks ago, I was talking about this 2 weeks ago. I was talking about 4 games against Danbury in a row and then 2 games against Watertown. That these 6 games were going to be very difficult and very important for the Binghamton Black Bears. Now, they're 2-1, so to speak, going into the Danbury game on Wednesday night. So, depending on how the game went with Danbury, and then obviously these upcoming 2 games against the Watertown Wolves, they could either be a 500 going through this, which I wouldn't say is a bad thing. But if they beat Danbury at home because, they got the power of the fans in the stands, and then they're 3-1 through the first 4 games, and then they go into the Danbury, we'll see what happens. So let's hope for the best here for the Binghamton Black Bears. All right, let's get into this. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search for Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search Power Play Post Show. And thank you very much for everybody who has already joined the show as well. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, like I said, we have Watertown Wolves broadcaster Jeff Barrett, and very happy to be able to get to talk to him another time, which was a lot of fun. So there is obviously, this is a busy week for the Black Bears. Yes, for some people, you get some time off because it is obviously the holidays. You know, some people don't work on Thursdays and Fridays. You know, some people who work in retail, they work Friday through the whole weekend, whatever it might be. It'll be pretty interesting, but it's a busy week for the Binghamton Black Bears, playing on Wednesday and then, of course, playing on Friday and Saturday against the Watertown Wolves. Okay, so the Black Bears and the Watertown Wolves will play 2 more games this weekend. A home-and-home series with the Black Bears in Watertown on Friday night, and then the 2 will meet again on Saturday in Binghamton. This will be the 3rd and the 4th meetings of the season between the 2 teams. The Wolves and the Black Bears met at the beginning of the season in games 1 and 2 for both teams. In the first game of the season, the Black Bears won in Watertown 3-2 in a very close game which was played up in Watertown. All those games are tough in Watertown. As we all know, we've watched them. Even when Watertown wasn't the best, they still got 3 wins last year against Binghamton, and they were all in Watertown, okay? Then the Binghamton and the Wolves, the Black Bears and the Wolves won. Then in Binghamton, the Wolves won their first game of the season 5-3 on the banner-raising ceremony night as the Black Bears were celebrating their championship season from last season. The Wolves are the leaders in the FPHL with scoring 5.9 goals per game. Yes, that is true. It is not a mistake. They have scored a league-best 71 goals in 12 games. The Wolves are 9-0-1 in their last 10 games. The Wolves are led by Kyle Heitzner, who has 13 goals, 11 assists in 24 games. Kyle leads the team in power play goals with 4. Michael Mercurio has 6 goals and 14 assists for 20 points in 12 games played. Chatwin Blacksmith has 8 goals and 11 assists for 19 points in 12 games. They really right now have 3 or 4 guys that just can beat you, right? Or they're going to set up somebody to beat you. The other thing I want to point out, it's very important. I talk about this with Jeff Barrett later on in the show. They have what the Black Bears had last year, which is they can score from their second and their third lines. They have that secondary scoring that I always talk about, which is very important. Anton Baratkin is 9-0-1 with a 2.56 goals against average and a 9.29, basically a 93% save percentage. So he's playing really well. But when you have a great offense in front of you, your goalie numbers are going to look good. I'm not taking away from what Brodkin has done so far this season. All I'm saying is sometimes the best defense is a great offense. And right now, the Wolves have an outstanding offense. And they're playing well, and there's reasons for that. We'll get to that in just a little bit. The Wolves are firing at 32% of the time on the power play, scoring 16 man-up advantage goals. The PK for the Wolves is 85% good on the PK, only have given up 9 power play goals and 60 chances, which is really outstanding. The Black Bears are scoring 22% of the time on the power play, scoring 18 goals on 81 chances. They've had the most chances so far. They've also got the most power play goals, but that percentage is a little bit down. So I think they're like 6th in the league, where the Wolves are 1st in the league. Binghamton's PK is 81% good, only giving up 12 power play goals and 63 chances. As we know, they've been really outstanding. The last 3 games, they have not given up a power play goal. However, when they did lose that game in Danbury on Saturday, that was 7 5-on-5 goals. And unfortunately, that's not something that Coach Sherwood is too happy about. Tyson Kirkby still leads the team with 10 goals and 13 assists for 23 points and has 4 power play goals plus 2 game-winning goals. Now, with Cam Clark, Blake Tosto called up to the SPHL, Gavin Yates sits in second place in points with 5 goals and 8 assists. Then let's see here. Connor McAnanama and Nolan Egbert are the goalie tandems, and both have played well most of the season. Both have 5 wins, as the team has 10 wins. Will the Black Bears, after Wednesday's game versus Danbury and the return of Kyle Steffen, be able to compete with the firepower of the Wolves? Can the Black Bears team defense mentality slow down the Wolves? So I don't know if the Black Bears can outshoot the Wolves right now. I think the Wolves, they're doing everything they need to do on offense, and they've got a lot of confidence on that team with the way they're playing, that I don't know if the Black Bears are going to be able to outshoot and beat them. Maybe if Cam Clark was here and Blake Tosto and Kyle Steffen, and that lineup is exactly the way Coach wants it. We don't know if Donald Oliveri is going to play Wednesday night. Again, later on in the show, I'll have my thoughts on that game, so you guys will hear that. We don't know if Don was going to play in that game, if he was going to get up in time. He might. It all depends. Remember, this is an early start time on Wednesday of 6 p.m. So can the Black Bears team defense mentally slow down the Wolves? And that is going to be the key to this game. How do the Black Bears not give up shooting lanes to the Wolves so the Wolves don't get as many chances on the goaltenders? How do they get control of the puck, keep control of the puck, and realistically dominate puck possession? Because I think that's going to be key in the games on Friday night and on Saturday. So it's going to be an interesting series. Right now, both teams have a win, and obviously that's important. But realistically, it's going to be very interesting to see how these two teams do. Now, being that this is Thanksgiving, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm thankful for, and I wanted to get the opinion of some of the fans of what they're thankful for when it comes to the hockey world. Being that this is Thanksgiving, I'm just thankful, realistically, for obviously friends and family. That's all very, very important. And I know most of the people who wrote on the Facebook page also, love their family and friends, but the relationships that you do form in the hockey world are very special. Sometimes it's with players or broadcasters or, maybe the owners of the team or something to that effect. But realistically, these relationships really mean something. Hockey is usually a very close-knit, very tight. People don't forget people after certain interactions, which I think is pretty cool. I'm thankful that you fans listen to the show on a regular basis. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the comments. You can give me good comments and bad comments, and I always really just appreciate the feedback, which is important. I know Patricia Hutchinson from Danbury said she couldn't stop listening to the way I was saying the word rivalry, which I was saying incorrectly a couple shows ago, and I still appreciated that. It's something that there are times when I need to slow down and speak better. I went through speech therapy when I was a kid, and sometimes it still catches up to me today. I very much enjoy putting these shows together, and I'm very thankful for all the people that listen. That's really important. I'm also thankful to the team for allowing me to have the interaction with them as much as they allow me to. This week, I wanted to have Jeff Barrett on and give the team... they already got to play a game on Wednesday, and then they got Friday, Saturday. Thanksgiving is on Thursday. I don't know if any of them are going home for it or if they're all going to stay just in town, especially with the snow coming in on Thursday, which you could be listening to this right now and looking outside and maybe seeing some snow falling on Thanksgiving Day. if you're listening on Thanksgiving Day. So I wanted to give the team off. Figured I could call Jeff Barrett and he would be glad to come on, which he did. So I'm very thankful for that. I'm thankful that I can do those kinds of things because, not everyone always has the ability to be able to do that. So I want to read a couple of these, right? I want to read some of these that you guys wrote on the Facebook page, and I really appreciate you guys doing that. Gary Ryan writes, I am extremely thankful for the local hockey community. You are all not just acquaintances, you're also family to me. And that's so true. It's really, really awesome that a lot of us think that way. Kelly Howe wrote, I am thankful for you, Bobby Howard, and Gary Ryan on the Fed League Flash for all the knowledge and insight. I'm also thankful for all the hockey friends I have found that seems more like family. What's great about Kelly is she's new to hockey. Really, really new to hockey. She found hockey because of the Black Bears, and I believe she's also got a young one that's playing youth hockey, which is so very cool. Nicole Esposito Ross said, Kelly, how amen to this, which is pretty awesome. Our friend Jeff Barrett, you'll hear later on, said, I am thankful to be a part of the fraternity of announcers and publicists, some I've never met and some who have become lifelong friends to promote our brand of hockey. Jeff, I'm with you on that. Very thankful to be a part of that in my own little way as a broadcaster as well. So let's see here. Let's go down to Erica. I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name correctly. Sikigano. I said that really, really wrong. I do apologize, Erica. And I think I've met you too. I think you've come up and you got a Power Play Post Show sticker, which I'm thankful for everybody who did that. Came up, got a sticker, put it on their device. And if you still haven't gotten a sticker, come up and see me at one of the games. She writes, I am thankful for Andreas Johansson bringing hockey back to Binghamton. So am I. I'm also thankful to me, Bobby Howard, and Gary Ryan. Your podcasts have helped me follow the teams in the FPHL and learn so much about Binghamton hockey. I am glad of that. Scott Allen wrote, I am thankful for Bobby Howard and Gary Ryan for covering the FPHL and that we're able to enjoy road games on YouTube. You know what, Scott? That is awesome. It totally agree. It allows me to be able to do my job a little bit better. I can watch the games. I can listen to Brooks Hill, get the insight, be able to write about those road games still because I can't make all the road games. I'm very thankful that we still have pro hockey in Binghamton. Scott, me too. Thank you to Andreas Johansson. I agree. Bob Tokus, who is someone who's been around for a very long time with Binghamton hockey. Salute to Bobby for your insight and hockey knowledge. Thank you. I appreciate that and connections. And to Andreas, the very best owner and gentleman in hockey. I agree with that. Josiah, Smoker, I'm thankful that while my mom has stage 4 cancer, Josiah, we're all praying for her. We hope she gets better soon. I have amazing hockey games and hockey friends that get me through the toughest times every week. Things like the Power Play Post Show, the Fed League Flash, and weekly games bring joy to me and my family every week. I've met Josiah's father, very nice gentleman as well. I also got another one. Let me find it here. Yvonne Page Lyons messaged me. She said, grateful to be able to watch great local hockey in an interesting arena that is electrifying. The first game I went to and the Black Bears scored, the arena erupted. I was hooked. Grateful for Coach, who is a very talented recruiter, bringing in players that are downright great guys. Grateful for the office, making sure every game is perfect. And I guarantee you, if we said that to the office guys, they're like, nothing ever runs perfectly. But it's great that you think it does. And lastly, I'm grateful for the wonderful team of guys that are not only amazing to watch, but down-to-earth guys that give back to the fans in the community. Let's go Black Bears. So, guys, thank you so much. One of the great things that I love and I'm very thankful for is the Power Play Post Show Facebook group has allowed me to interact with fans and be able to have this kind of back and forth. And I'm sure you all realize that every single one of these I have, liked or loved or something to that effect to make sure that you guys know that I've seen it, I appreciate it, and I also know that most of you that wrote listened to the show, and I appreciate that you guys did that. I also want to thank everybody. I'm very thankful to everybody that sent me messages or posted on the Power Play Post Show Facebook group, which I approved all those messages, giving me a shout out for being inducted into the Rink of Dreams Hall of Fame class of 2025. I'm very excited to go up there and accept this honor. I know that Gary Ryan's going to go with me because I'm going to make sure that he goes and sees the Rink of Dreams. He's excited about going up there. He's become a great friend, and I'm very appreciative of that friendship that Gary and I have kind of created and cultivated over the last couple years. He's kind of from my time frame. We know some of the same things. We remember some of the same names from the Whalers. And so it's pretty cool. And I think we share a collective hockey knowledge of, things from Binghamton hockey. That's pretty cool. So, again, thank you everybody for posting all the things that you did. I know I'm thankful for all of you, and that's really the important thing. And I hope you guys had a great, whatever you do on Thursday for Thanksgiving, whether it's ham or turkey or just watching football, watching my Dallas Cowboys kick the crap out of the New York Giants, whatever it is, I hope you guys just, enjoy it. And, as I tell people all the time, try to be nice to others because there's a lot of horrible things that happen in the world and we have to deal with it and it stresses people out. But give somebody a hug. That's one of the best things you can do is just go, hey, do you need a hug? Let me give you a hug. And just give them a big warm hug. That's really what it comes down to. It makes a difference in someone's life. If you see someone having a bad day, tell them that it'll get better. That type of stuff. So, all right. A couple more things before we shift over to my thoughts on the Danbury Hat game from Wednesday night, which I'm going to record right after the game when I get back to the studios from the arena. But I want to look at the attendance in the FPHL because it kind of leads me into the last thing that I want to talk about. All right, so I'm pulling up the stats right now. These are the stats from Tuesday night. So these are attendance numbers through Tuesday night. And Monroe right now sits up front. They've played 8 games, and they have an average of 4,497 fans. That's 35,976. Now, if they follow this course, they'll be up over 100,000. I think that'll be a success in Monroe. I'm hoping that Monroe can basically keep these numbers where they are throughout the season, finish around there. Probably be the number one team in the league with fan support, which I think will be great for a team that's coming back in after not having hockey for 20 years. They've done a good job. They may not be the best team on the ice yet, but if they're bringing in fans and they can keep those fans, and they do one thing, and I hope, Parker, if you listen to this, this is very, very, very important. Have those players interact with those fans, and they will keep coming back. That's a key, okay? Number 2 in the league right now is obviously the Binghamton Black Bears, through 6 games, averaging 42.01. I know they've had 2 sellouts. They had the first game of the season was like about 100 fans less from a sellout, right? So it's almost 3 sellouts. So 3 of the 6 games close to a sellout, if not a sellout. Or you can look at it at 90% full capacity, which is pretty cool through 3 games. And then the other 3 games were in that 3,200, 36, I think, and 3,900 maybe for 3 games. 25,208 fans through 6 games. Pretty good, okay? Columbus right now sitting at 3,472 fans per game through 5 games. Now, Columbus will pick up a little bit more after Christmas, and their numbers will get a little bit better. Just a little bit, but still better. They're always pretty good. Biloxi or Mississippi right now, the Sea Wolves only have played 2 games at home through the season. And if you think that's the least amount, it's not. We'll get to that in a second. 3,000 fans, 3,060 fans on average. So they've had about 6,100 fans. They need to do better. They can do better. There is enough people in that city that they should do better. Biloxi should easily be up over 4,000 on average per game. The Carolina Thunderbirds through 5 games have 2,996. They'll get better after the holidays are over with, so I'm not worried about that number. Baton Rouge, who did really well last year, through 11 games. They've already played 11 home games, and that's the most so far in this year. 28-60. Now, they were the team that beat the Binghamton Black Bears last year by about 26, but we all know that they fudged that last game. Totally fudged the number of the last game just so they could get above Binghamton and be the leader. But this is the proof of the pudding, right? Binghamton has grown since last year, and Baton Rouge is 28-60 through 11 games. That's 31,000 fans. They're not even going to make 100,000. And that's sad when they did last year. Danbury, 1919 through 7 games. They'll actually improve on that after the holidays. Not worried about that. Blue Ridge, I kind of want to see a bigger number. They're at 1346 through 6 games, right? But I'm kind of curious what they were last year. Because they had the different type of configuration, and so Blue Ridge last year was at 1294. So they have not increased the attendance yet significantly, right? It's 1294 last year. This year it's 1346. That's an extra 50 fans per game if they're all paying fans. That is still, considerable amount of money. Maybe, if you're talking about $20, that's an extra $2,000. Yeah, I think that's about an extra $2,000 a game that you're bringing in. That's not a lot of money, but maybe it's enough to continue everything going there. And hopefully they'll just pick up more fans after the holidays. I'm not really sure. They have room for 3,500 seats, I think it is there, or 3,600. So hopefully they'll pick that up and get closer to that 2,000, and they can just grow every single year. Port Huron, 1,305 fans through 5 games, about average for them. I think Motor City last year was under 1,000. They're at 1,120 right now through 4 games. Hopefully they can pick that up. Danville's a little bit of a disappointment. Only 702 fans through 4 games. I think they can fit 2,500 fans in the Palmer Arena there. So that's a little disappointing. Watertown, I'm not worried about. 9 games, 678 fans. They'll be pulling in 1,500 fans after Christmas. It's just the way it is in Watertown. I wish it was a bigger arena. I think everybody in Watertown wished it was a little bit bigger of an arena. It wasn't a community rink, but they always do good after the holidays, so not a big deal. And then we get to the last 2 teams, right? And I'm going to talk about team number 14 first because that's Athens, Georgia. In about 10 days, Athens is going to play their first home game. And it'll be interesting to see if they fill that arena. It's a brand new arena that was built. The hockey team is one of the tenants, the Athens Rock Lobsters. They've been on the road this year. And let me pull up the standings here to tell you how they've done on the road, because they've been basically just on the road. And they're in 3rd place. They've played 10 games so far, and they're 4-1. Let's see here. No, let me correct that. They are 9-1 because they've had 5 overtime wins between overtime and the shootout. Okay, so they're doing okay. They're doing good, right? No big deal. They've won 5 in a row, and they're doing this on the road, right? But it'll be interesting to see how they do in their home stands. How many fans? This is the most expensive ticket in the FPHL is in Athens, Georgia, right? So it'll be very interesting to see how they do, not just the first game, but how do they do through, say, the first 10 home games, right? Do they go from sellout maybe in, game 1? Hopefully they do have a sellout in game 1. And, Who knows? Let's see how they do for the first 10. That'll be interesting. Number 13 on the list is truly going to be last place no matter what this year, and that's the Hudson Valley Venom. And that brings me to my last topic, which is about the Hudson Valley Venom. Through 8 games, they had only brought in, on average, 328 fans. That's 2,623. They tried a promotion to sell tickets at $10 a piece, and that just didn't work. And the Mannings are out in Newburgh. They're not going to be, they don't have an ownership anymore with the team. Essentially, they've basically said, we're done. The league has stepped in. The league is trying to figure something out. This could be a travel team. It could be that they play their home games somewhere else completely. We really don't know yet. And so if anybody tries to tell you that they know the answer, they don't. What I can tell you, though, is that there was some occurrences that happened at the arena between the owners of the Hudson Valley Venom at the time, which was the Mannings, Pat Manning and his wife, and the actual arena staff, right? It's not really an arena, it's a rink, let's be honest. And some bad blood, some bad stuff happened. They also didn't pay their bills, and that's what happened in Elmira. Bills weren't paid. The league has to take things over for the Mammoth, to keep the Mammoth there, right? To keep a 4th team in the Northeast. And now, next week, we could be looking at either a complete road team that's run by the FPHL, which the FPHL has a group of owners that can handle this. They can absorb this for one season, but they can't do that for season after season after season. However, where are the players going to live? How are they going to get to the games? Are they going to be expected to drive to all the games in their own cars and whatnot, which is just ridiculous, right? Nobody thinks that's a good idea. And you never know what bad things are going to happen on the road when you have players trying to drive themselves from game to game to game. So there's a lot of logistics to figure out here. And I don't think these things are easy for the league to figure out. And I feel bad because I thought with Pat Manning coming in, he was successful with the Vipers in the APHL, and it's just not going to happen here in Newburgh, New York. Now, there was the other arena, the McCann Arena, which the other rinks owners, that has actually more seats in it. But for some reason, I think that's in Poughkeepsie, New York, maybe. I could be wrong on that. But they had the other arena, and it had more seats in it, but they chose to go with a smaller arena, and then they ran out of money, and things got ugly there at the rink between the owners of the team and the owners of the rink. It's unfortunate. So now the league has to figure this out. And obviously, with this being a holiday week, I don't think they can figure it out this week. But there's a lot of implications, right? If the team folds, that means the schedule is garbage, right? And what do you do with the schedule? Do you make Binghamton go and play another 5 games against Danbury, or another 5 games against Watertown? Maybe you send them to Danville again, or up to Motor City, or whatever. I mean, you could be looking at more road games for the Northeast teams because they're kind of isolated now, just kind of like the Midwest teams are kind of isolated, right? Danville is like still 8 hours away from Motor City and Port Huron. It's ridiculous. And if you lose this team and you can't find another place in the Northeast to put this team, then you've got 3 teams, Watertown, Binghamton, and Danbury. They're by themselves. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. And then you're back to a minimum of 14 games or more between Binghamton and Watertown, Binghamton and Danbury and Watertown, just to make a schedule that could get up to 56, because then you play probably Port Huron 8 times, you play Danville 8 times. Who knows if Motor City makes it next year, or it makes it to next year. It depends. I mean, you fire Scott Brand and you expect people are going to re-up with you after he sold the most corporate sponsorships for the team. It's craziness, right? It's craziness. But unfortunately, when you don't have a solid ownership group, you don't have a good plan. Scott Brand had a good plan this year, coming from down south, right? From one of the teams down south, coming up to Motor City, kind of redoing things up there. and then he gets let go. So who knows if Motor City's even going to make it next year? You could lose two teams, one this year and then one next year with Motor City not coming back. You just don't know, unfortunately. So I think it's unfortunate. Here are the implications. If you have a road team, then you have logistics with the players getting to games and where they're going to play the home games, because basically, unless they really can convince the rink there in Newburgh, the Ice Time Palace or Ice Rink, whatever it's called, right? Unless you can convince the owners there to let them play the home games there and finish out the season, you then have to put them on the road. And then they're a road team, which means maybe you add more games in Binghamton, right? Maybe you add more games in Danbury and more games in Watertown, and that's where they play. So say Binghamton doesn't have a game on a Sunday, and you have Watertown come down and you play Watertown versus, say Hudson Valley and Binghamton. Or maybe not there, but it would be like a Hudson Valley home game. Or maybe they go up to Watertown and play on a Sunday when they're off, or they come to play Binghamton on a Sunday, and then you get a couple more 3-3 games. There's a lot of logistics, a lot of things that are going to happen. We don't know yet. We probably won't know until next week. Now, according to some reports, it is more than likely that they're going to go down to Blue Ridge and play those games there. But again, even as you're listening to this on Thursday and maybe around Friday, we don't know until those games are played in Blue Ridge for Hudson Valley. It's a fluid situation. I have talked to people within the league, and they just don't have the answers yet. So, if people make it seem like they know what's going on or issues, listen, the owners ran out of money. They had altercations with the owners of the Ice Time Palace, and they're just not going to work it out. And in some circles, some people don't think that the rink will allow the Hudson Valley Venom play their home games there. So this could be a fold, could be a travel team. We'll have to see, and it'll be very interesting to find out. All right. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, I'm going to give you about 10 minutes of my thoughts on the Danbury game from Wednesday night. Then after that, we'll have Jeff Barrett from the Watertown Wolves, and he and I will preview even more about the series this upcoming weekend against the Watertown Wolves. So, coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, it'll be me again, but it'll be on Wednesday evening, and we'll be talking about the Danbury Hat Tricks, the fourth game that we played against them, but at least the fourth one was at home. So, we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. Listen, it is Wednesday evening. It's about 9:58 at night. You guys are all probably settling in, maybe having a cocktail or whatever it is that you might have at 10 o'clock at your home. We all just witnessed another game between the Danbury Hat Tricks and the Binghamton Black Bears, but obviously here at the Visions Veterans Memorial Arena. I thought it was a very well-played game between both teams. Honestly, I think when there's not really any shenanigans going on, these two teams can play each other, and they play each other, kind of physical, kind of hard, but also respectful in a lot of ways as well. So the Black Bears did come away with the 3-2 win over the Hat Tricks. So in the 4 games that they played against the Hat Tricks in this 4-game run, the Black Bears, beat them 3 times, 3 out of 4 times. And it was just that third game that kind of gives you that little bit like, whoa, what happened there? But again, that was a week after the suspensions, and Cam Clark was already called up at that point, up to the SPHL. So there's a little bit of tweaking that needs to be done with the lineup, and Coach Sherwood has to watch the game from afar and kind of try to make adjustments in between games. The team did really good tonight, and the way I look at it is they played very good defensively. I think Danbury realized that the Black Bears weren't gunning for a run-and-gun style like they normally do. They like to use some of their speed. And, Black Bears aren't the fastest team on the ice compared to some other teams in the league. Watertown's a fast team, and maybe they're not as speedy as them. But the Black Bears know how to sometimes pull the screws back a little bit, right, and play a little bit better defensively. And that's what Coach Sherwood definitely said to me after the contest tonight. And again, we got actually about 5 or 6 minutes from Coach Sherwood that we're going to play for you here in just a minute. But let's run through these goals because I think it's important. In the first period, Cade Henry got the Black Bears on the scoreboard first at the 12:28 mark. He got a great pass from Christopher Mott and just put one home for his third goal of the season. And then just under, I think it was like 4 minutes and 47 seconds later, Cade Henry gets his second goal of the game, fourth goal of the year. Jesse Anderson got the assist on that, and that made it a 2-0 game. So after the first period, which was pretty good. Now, this was a slower first period that we normally see from the Black Bears, and even really the Hat-Tricks for that matter. But again, I think it's because the Black Bears, after talking to Coach Sherwood, slowed things down, played a little bit better team defense, which is something that I know he's really trying to hammer home with this team, and they did a really good job. The two goaltenders did not get a lot of work in this game at all. I truly believe that this game was played between goal line, and really the goaltenders were not that much of a factor. I'm not saying that McCollum and McAnama didn't play well. I thought they did both play well, but they weren't needed as much because I think both teams played very defensively as a team. So the five guys that were on the ice played really well. Now, the Danbury Hat-Tricks in the second period did get on the score sheet at the 8:54 mark. This was a power play. Vadim Frolov got the goal. Chase Harwell did get an assist here, which is important because Chase Harwell scored a little bit later. Now, the next two goals became kind of controversial, so to speak, right? Or the next two potential goals became controversial, I guess, but not really. It's just that they did Danbury in the second period challenged two goals that one was called a goal and they lost it. Then they went on the power play or on the penalty kill because of the delay of game, but then scored a shorthanded goal that was waved off, and they challenged that, and that was overturned and called a goal. So at the 9:16 mark, Tyson Kirkby went in, and it was a shot off of that Caden Henry took, went off of Tyson Kirkby and went in. It was called a goal for Tyson Kirkby, and then the Danbury Hat-Tricks challenged that. Now, they lost the challenge, okay? And in the FPHL says, well, if you throw the red flag like in football and challenge a play or challenge a goal, if you are unsuccessful in the challenge, then you get a penalty. And that's what happened. Well, before the 2 minutes were up, Chase Harwell went in. There was what looked like to the ref on the ice and to us up in the press box, it looked like there was goalie interference. I believe it was Josh LaBelle. I could be wrong on this, that was in front of the net. Let me see if he was even on the ice at the time. Yeah, Josh LaBelle. I'm pretty sure it was Josh LaBelle who was in front of Connor McAnama, and he was kind of up, waving up in front of him, and it looked like he was in the blue crease. It looked like it was goalie interference from our end, and the referee called it a no goal. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. He was in the crease, so on and so forth, right? And they went and Danbury said, review that that goal. So they reviewed it. Now, to me, this blew my mind, right? Because they just lost trying to review Tyson Kirkby's goal, and they lost that. So they're on the penalty kill, but then the refs come out and say, hey, no, that's a good goal, okay? Obviously, everybody was kind of frustrated and maybe a little upset about it, but they said it was a good goal. It's a shorthanded goal for Chase Harwell at the 11:06 mark. And that was the end of the scoring for this game. And it was really just more of a defensive battle after that. And Connor McAnanima has said after the game, he said there was no interference. It's a good goal. So we'll take it from Connor. I mean, if there's anybody that can complain about it, it would be Connor. Connor did not. He is saying that it is a good goal, no goalie interference. And that's where our scoring ended. It was a 3-2 win for the Binghamton Black Bears. Now, Dan Weaver did get tagged for an elbowing penalty, and then he fought Chase Harwell. He did not elbow Chase Harwell. It was another person on the ice, but Chase Harwell stepped up. Dan Weaver fought him. Not a bad fight. I think Weaver's lost his skates a little bit and fell down, and then the linesman got involved in there. I will say this. Vadim Frolov, man, he takes a lot of penalties, right? I think he's a good player. I think he's physical. I think he gets into it, but he takes a lot of penalties. I would have to go through all the Danbury games, but Vadim definitely had a lot of penalties in the game. Listen, it was a good crowd, 399.7, so 3,997 fans. Listen, the game was over by 8:25. Who else wants a few more of these 6 p.m. starts? That was kind of nice for sure. But again, the game, 3-2 game. What we're going to do now is I'm going to play you guys the conversation that I had with Brant Sherwood after the game. Now, remember, he couldn't be behind the bench. He was up in the stands in one of the boxes up top, and he watched the game from there. So I am going to send it over to him and me asking him questions after the game. And here's what Brant Sherwood had to say about tonight's contest.
All right, Coach. So obviously a great comeback after last week's Saturday's loss in Danbury. What did you think of your team tonight?
I thought our defensive performance was great. I mean, we limited a ton of odd man rushes. I think there was only like 2 or 3 2-on-1s. Yeah. So I'm pretty happy with that. Having C-Mac back in the net was great, and then seeing the new guys, that have been sitting out, kind of battling for an opportunity, and Caden Henry just comes to town and steals the show. I told him to play a little bit more aggressive, like a rat, like he's supposed to be, and then I came in after the first, and I said, all right, you're a goal scorer, never mind. But it was fun to see him, capture his moment. It was cool.
When I saw the third line, and I knew the third line was going to happen based on the roster of people, the guys who couldn't be on the roster today, with the call-ups, Steph obviously being suspended. I was like, someone on the third line needs to be that guy that steps up, and Cade Henry was that. Were you surprised it was Cade?
I wasn't surprised it was Cade. I see his offensive ability in practice all the time. I think everyone, kind of has the same reaction to his shot as they do with Don Oliveri. It's like it takes your breath away for a second. You're like, oh, this could go in, or he's a true offensive threat. But out of those guys, I really think Mater and him really played well. Mater was more on the defensive side of things. If you saw him out there for the last 5 minutes, he did a great job and moved him to wing and blocked shots, hard on the puck, closed gaps, took away time and space. It was great to see that from the third line in general.
Now, you were up in one of the boxes and everything, owner's box, watching this game because of your suspension and everything. Yeah. Tell me about your view up there, and what did you see in the game that was different than maybe being on the bench?
You can see plays develop, so then you're kind of like looking for players like, why isn't he anticipating that rim, because you can see it ahead of time, but obviously when you're on the ice it's a little bit different, so the game just moves a lot slower from up top. When you're on the bench, you miss a lot of things, and that's why you gotta go through the video after, where I feel like I just watched the video from up top. It was a great perspective, and Jared Levine did a great job on the bench, and it was a collective effort from our leadership group.
Now, after the one-day break for the Thanksgiving holiday, you guys have 2 big games against a team that Charlie Pence Jr. really has playing very well.
Yeah.
Talk about what you are expecting out of Watertown on Friday and Saturday.
Really good offense. They have a good goalie. But if you look at strength of schedule, I don't know if they're that... I know they're good. Like, obviously, they have 3 lines that they can roll that can all score. They're very fast. They transition well. But I think they're going to have a tougher matchup against us. Like, we're a gritty bunch. We might not have the speed that they have, but I think our back end's a little bit better. And then hopefully it's just a showdown with the goaltenders. But we got to limit those odd man rushes. That's where they really like to stretch the zone. They really like to cheat offense. So I do think it's going to be a great matchup. Like, everyone says, like, the South Division's this and that. I think Watertown's a great team. I think Danbury's a great team. I think Port Huron's a great team. It's going to be tough down the stretch, and none of these games are going to come easy, and I think you're going to see a lot closer games down the road.
One last question. We've seen a little bit more physicality out of Dan Weber. Even to the point where he told me, I'm running my mouth a little bit more on the ice. What have you seen out of Dan Weber out of these last 4, maybe 6 games?
He has an amazing stick, so he closes time and space well. I call it a jab or a punch with the stick. He really breaks up plays. Even when he gets beat, he has that reach to, knock it away. So I'm really liking his stick. I'm really liking his decision-making with the puck. At the beginning of the year, he's doing just a little too much. One too many stick handles. He's doing the right amount. He's seeing the ice well. And like you said, with his loud mouth, he's been very vocal. But that's such a great thing in hockey.
Yeah. Coach, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time. You're heading back to Philly tonight, I'm guessing, to spend some time with your wife and everything. So happy Thanksgiving and good luck this weekend.
Thanks so much, Bob. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well.
You're listening to the Power Play Post Show. Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. Last year we had this gentleman on, and I very much enjoyed it. He is a great broadcaster, has a great story of his own. He comes to us from the Watertown Wolves. He is Jeff Barrett. Jeff, welcome back to the show. Glad to have you guys on. Obviously, Binghamton and Watertown meet 2 times this upcoming weekend, and what a perfect time to have you come on, especially with how good the Watertown Wolves have been playing. Thank you very much for coming back on.
Oh, thanks for having me, Bobby. I really appreciate the opportunity.
So let's talk about it. The 2 teams started off the season playing against each other. They both took a game, and it was very interesting because Binghamton and Watertown saw each other in the first game of the season up in Watertown, a 3-2 win for the Black Bears. And then Watertown kind of repaid that favor the next night in Binghamton as they raised the banner for the championship. But Watertown won that game 5-3. What an interesting start that we didn't know was going to lead to these are going to be the 2 top teams in the Empire Division.
No, it's funny, like you said, that you're always a little nervous beginning of the season, kind of figure out what you've got going on for your roster. I watched some of the practices, and, we're looking okay. And like you said, that opening weekend with the split, after Friday night, I was like, we looked okay, came up on the wrong side of it. But, we looked all right, played some things right. And then go down there on Saturday, like you said, and I had to watch it online. And, we come away with a win on a big night down there for you guys. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like, geez, maybe we're for real. And I don't think anybody thought at that point, though, that Watertown would be on the streak that we're on right now. It's been kind of a crazy run,
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing, because one of the things you told me off air was 15 returning players, and we know how Watertown was last year. Maybe not the best team that the fans in Watertown have seen, but some great players on that team. Trevor Lord and Tate Leeson, and I know Dakota Seaman was on that team last year. High-powered, talented players. And I think after the first 2 games, it's like, okay, wait a second here. Watertown is looking good, right? But let's see how they do. And then they just continued that success.
Yeah, and like you said, we returned a lot of guys. We've added a little bit of firepower. I think a lot of the credit has to go to Charlie Penns behind the bench now as a head coach. I'll tell you right now, the room is probably the best attitude I've seen there in a few years. The guys are just happy playing hockey right now. Last year, I think there was a lot of frustration. The lines were changing every night. Guys didn't know who they were skating with. He's really settled that down. Nothing against Brian Verbeek that was here last year.
Right.
His practices were grueling, workouts. He's trying to get guys in shape, which there's nothing wrong with that. But this year, Charlie's a lot more about, we work on the penalty kill and the power play a ton. And you can tell by our numbers that's really turned around this year. And I think that's been a big difference. And I just think the attitude this season, guys they're content with what they're doing, and they're working as a team better than they did last year.
You mentioned something that a lot of people outside of the Watertown area thought was really strange. Last year, goaltenders were being pulled after 2 goals very quickly in games. And then you mentioned today, just now, that the lines have been a little bit more solid and staying together a little bit more. Is that definitely a Charlie Penn's, influence on this team and how he coaches, that he's not been pulling goaltenders as much, that you have had some consistency, and that's really helped this team?
I think that's a huge part of it, and Charlie be the first to tell you. He doesn't want to switch lines up. He put some lines together the beginning of the year, and they really haven't altered much from that.
Right.
It's kind of neat, and when you're in the locker room with these guys, he sits and talks with the guys after practice, and he'll ask them, who do you think you'd work better with, or which line do you think should be with this guy or that guy? And he's given the team a lot of ownership in what we're doing, how practices go, and I think that gives them a little bit more sense of pride and a little bit more of a drive to succeed,
there's only a few guys on this team that don't have an R next to them on the roster, right? Michael Mercurio, right. Trevor Lord, Tate Leeson, Chase DeBari. There's not many guys with an R, so there's a lot of rookies on this team, sometimes first-year rookies and second-year rookies. Do you think there's a good mix of how much there's veteran leadership versus rookies? Because sometimes the rookies really want to go out there and just prove themselves.
Yeah, and it's funny. Our rookies coming in this year, for the most part, when we've had them on our show or talked to the guys, they are looking at the veteran guys. They're working with Trevor Lord and, like you said, with Leeson and Mercurio, who's been in the league for a few years now. And they're looking up to these guys, and I think that's working really well.
You told me a little bit off air, Tate Leeson, he's only played 4 games, but he's got 12 points, 4 goals, and 8 assists. When he's been in the lineup this year, he's been very potent. Who have been his line mates so far this year?
Well, he's been the one off that's actually been mixed in a couple of different lines.
Okay.
But he's been skating with Trevor Lord and with Chouette and Blacksmith a few times. That's been a really high scoring line right there. So, and he's been matched up a couple of times with Carter Thornton, who's another kid that's really turned it on this year. And so I think him just being here a few times, he's been mixed into a couple different lines. Mm-hmm. But Leeson's talented enough player where he makes it work,
Now, one of the things you and I had talked about as well about Tate Leeson is it appears that, at least in the first 4 games that you've seen, with only 2 penalty minutes, I think we use the phrase maybe growing up a little bit. Sometimes players, they come in with too much of an edge. And Tate Leeson's a very skilled player. And the last thing that we want to see from skilled players is when they kind of go over that edge just a little bit. But you've seen that, and you kind of made mention of that to me. It seemed like he's just out there just playing the best hockey he can.
Yeah, I think he's matured in the off season a little bit. He said, and I don't think it was just him. Last year, if you looked at our penalty minutes, I think we led the league. So
it was close.
We took a lot of stupid penalties last year. Guys, I don't know what it was, frustration or just lazy. We took a lot of really bad, uncalled for penalties. We haven't turned it around 100% this year, but I think right now we're fourth in the Empire in penalty minutes. The guys have really started to control their game a little bit. And for Leeson, like I said, I think it's just he came back with a different level of maturity to him. And like I said, maybe just being there the 4 games, he hasn't assumed that leadership role like he has in the past. Mm-hmm. He's just happy to be there skating, and he's having a good time. And he's got some prior commitments at home, and once he gets done with that, I think we're going to have him in the lineup all the time, which that's a dangerous guy to have there every night,
Now, the Black Bears will see him this weekend. You told me that you're pretty confident that both games, Tate Leeson will be with the team. But one of the things that I noticed about this team, and this is something I noticed about the Black Bears last year, was secondary scoring. And realistically, when you take a look at up and down the stats on this team, there's only Graspy and I think Gingrich that don't have a goal yet this year on this team. Oh, Berturo doesn't either, but he's only played 3 games. So
he's just been here.
How important has it been that the second and the third line have been chipping in, even if they're not doing as much as the primary, goal scorers, which are sometimes 4 or 5 guys, but those guys down there on that third line are also scoring.
Yeah, guys have been doing a great job. Ross Bartlett has been a lot of fun to watch this year. As I said, Carter Thornton's a guy that's throwing it in quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But we're actually getting some of our defensive players that are jumping in. Ludlow Harris, 10 games, he's got 9 points already from the D position, The guys, they're not afraid to jump into the offensive rush. It's been fun to say. Case Tabari, one of the biggest knocks against him last year, at least from my point of view, we used to bust on him a lot. The kid can skate like the wind, and he flies all over the ice, but he was reluctant to put the puck on net. And this year, he's actually throwing it at the net a little bit. And there's a couple of rookies that have come in, Dylan Infantino and Lair Patakin. These guys have jumped right in, and like you just said about the score sheet, it's really balanced up and down. I mean, you got some guys that have jump out like Kyle Heitzner. I mean, his numbers are just unreal so far. Yeah. Mercurio's had a great start. Blacksmith, we all expected that. But it's the guys, like you just said, the secondary scoring. Down the line, we're getting a lot of balanced scoring.
Why do you think the power play and the penalty kill has been so good this year? Again, returning players, 15 from last year, but 32% on the power play, which is basically what the Black Bears were doing last year, as they were the number 1 power play unit or power play team in the league. That's what Watertown basically is now, and 85%, only 15% of opposing teams are scoring power play goals against them. Why do you think those 2 segments of the Wolves games is really that good this year?
I believe a lot of that credit goes to Charlie Pence. That's something that he stressed going into the season. He works on it every day in practice. He has a bunch of drills that he runs, and he sets up his defense on the PK a little bit different, I think, than some teams do. Mm-hmm. But he likes to throw people off, and he's been doing really well with that. And as far as our power play, the guys, I think this year, to me anyway, it just seems like the guys are more patient. They're not just throwing the puck at the goal. We're spreading around. We had last week, of course, we lit up Danville. It was kind of ugly, but a couple of those goals, you'll see guys just, take the puck deep into the zone, and they're making the goaltender commit before they make that pass. They're not forcing passes. They've been really patient. And I think that's the biggest reason is the guys are seeing the ice. They're seeing who's open. Not just, I love dirty goals. You just throw it at the goal and they'll let it bounce around. But this year, I think the guys are a lot more relaxed. They settle it down. They spread it. And I think that has a lot to do with the way Charlie runs his power plays.
Who is the guy right now on the team that still gets you that greasy, dirty goals? Because I think those are very important when you're battling and you're playing up against a good goaltender who is not giving up much and cutting off the angles pretty well. Who's the guy on this team that is going to get the greasy, dirty goal?
I probably two of them. Carter Thornton is a guy that he's just sneaky. All of a sudden he'll have a goal and you didn't even see him as part of the play or whatever. And Trevor Lord's another one. Lord just seems to find that big juicy rebound. It always comes to his tape, and he'll snipe it home every time. So those two. I mean, Lord's a big part of the offense anyway. But like I said, Carter Thornton is a guy. He's not a big guy. He's not going to be standing right in front of the goal, but he's always around to seem to pick up the trash and beat the goalie with that second or third shot.
So I'm a part of the Minor Pro Hockey's power rankings, which includes obviously the three guys at the Minor Pro Hockey, the Fed League Flash, Gary Ryan, and of course myself. As we looked at this past week was the first week we put Watertown at number one collectively, all five of us, when we did our voting. And I know Trevor Lord kind of made a joke about it a little bit on Facebook, like "about time, guys," or something to that effect, right? And everything. But do you understand why it took us a little bit of time to go? Okay, Watertown is the real freaking deal. We need to put them at number one.
I think so. For one thing, I think those lists are kind of subjective anyway.
Yes.
And I think the reason is. I may be wrong. I mean, we're still early in the season.
Yeah. And
coming off last season, I mean, we had to, we got into the playoffs off an Elmira loss.
Yes. In Binghamton. Yep.
And I think people were just waiting to see if we were for real. I mean, we were scoring, we were winning. And then last week, and like I said, just 20 goals in 2 games was kind of ridiculous.
Yep.
And then, being able to go out to Motor City and pick up 8 goals on Friday night, I don't know if that's the reason why. Like I said, it's kind of funny that I just think people look at the history from last year, rolling into this year, and, it's going to take time to say, geez, are these guys for real? Because it just doesn't seem, I mean, even to me, I'm in the booth doing a game, and I'm just like, I'm still kind of flabbergasted at how well the guys are playing together, So
when they scored this,
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if if we are number one. I think right now the big test, like you said,
this weekend,
the 2 best teams in the Empire, and as far as I'm concerned, the 2 best teams in the FPHL right now are Binghamton and Watertown, and we're going to see each other in a home-and-home series. This is going to be a very telling weekend, I think.
Yeah, Binghamton's without Cam Clark, who's called up to the SPHL. Some rumors he might be back at some point. We don't know if that's going to be before the Watertown series. And Kyle Steffen should be back after the Danbury game from his 2-game suspension. But, the nice thing for Watertown is that they have their head coach behind the bench, and Binghamton will not be for this upcoming weekend, which will be very interesting, I think, to see how it plays out, because Watertown is so hot right now, 28 goals in the last 3 games, which is just crazy. I think Binghamton had something very similar to that last year where Mississippi came into town and they scored 9 goals in a 9-0 win, and then they scored like 10 goals, and then they had another game where they scored another 7 goals. So it's very similar, right? You have those kind of games and everything. So it'll be interesting to see what are you looking for between these 2 games coming into Friday and Saturday. Obviously, it's a home and home, right? So that's going to be good for both teams to at least get 1 game in their own barn. But Watertown has already proved they can beat Binghamton in their barn this year, and Binghamton's proved that they can beat Watertown in their barn this year. So what are you looking for in this upcoming weekend games?
Well, like I said, obviously, the last couple of weeks, no disrespect to the other teams, but we've kind of had an easy go of it. When we had Danville here last week, they were short-staffed here. Their goaltender was kind of beat up a little bit, but had to go because he was basically their only choice.
Yeah.
We've had, I don't want to say easy, I hate to say that, but the guys have had a pretty good run of it, as you said, lighting up the goals and stuff. But I think going into this weekend, you're going to see a lot more of a better matchup. Binghamton, obviously, after last season, coming in this year, they're the measuring stick that you have to play against, and I think it'll be a good idea. We'll get a good idea after this weekend of what work needs to be done for us or what needs to be done for Binghamton. And I think it's going to be one of the best weekends so far in the league this year, and I think people should be paying attention to these games this week because I think you're going to see high caliber hockey on either side. Yeah, and we could see two great games this weekend.
Yeah, maybe the scoring won't be as high because both teams will be. Well, I'm just saying. When you have two teams that are playing at a high level, and Watertown's been. They scored 28 goals. I mean, I could be dead wrong, and you guys could. It could be a blowout 9-0. On Friday night. Who knows? But what I'm saying is when you usually have two high-powered teams go against each other, they're playing systems very well. A lot of times it ends up being like a 3-2 game or a 2-1 game, which honestly, I still like hockey games like that. I know fans love to cheer goals and whatnot, but you could still see that. I have to ask you this. When you get to the 11th goal, like you did, and you're calling that game and you get to the 11th goal, is the energy still as high on the 11th goal call for you compared to the 3rd or the 4th goal call?
Yeah, you're going to laugh at this. I was trying to think of things to say at that point of the game.
Yeah.
It was just, it's all, I mean, I'd rather, like you said, that 3-2 game, I'm in it. I'm excited. When you get up and it's 11 to 1, you run out of things to say and the energy just leaves the building. I mean, even the fans were just kind of got quiet after a while. Like, you almost felt bad for Danville. It was just, it's like, I don't know, like I said, I ran out of things to talk about, and I was like almost yawning at the end of the game, like, oh my God, let's just go home.
Have you ever called 20 goals in one weekend before, do you think?
No, that was the first.
That was the first? Okay. I wasn't sure because, you've been with Watertown for a while now, and then, there's been some good teams in Watertown. If you could stack this up, I think what you guys have played, how many games now? 12 games. Does this feel like one of those special teams that you've seen in the past in Watertown?
Absolutely. We've won the Commissioner's Cup 3 times.
Yep.
And we had to scrap for the first 2. Back in 22, we just had one of those years where the wins just kept coming. It just seemed like you couldn't do anything wrong. We had a great lineup. I mean, you had Justin McDonald and a bunch of big guys, Cole McKechnie, and it was just, you knew going along, it just felt like it was going to be a special team and a special season. And this year, it's really starting to feel that way. And the worst part is, I don't want to get ahead of myself and thinking, oh my God, this is a great team.
But they're playing great right now.
They are playing great right now. But we're good. We haven't hit some of the meat of the schedule yet. We're going to see you guys a bunch this year, and I still think, Binghamton. Right now, I think Binghamton is the team to beat. I'd like to think that we're going to be number 1 or number 2, throughout the season. But it's just when I look at Binghamton, that's the big kid on the block. So.
I want to ask you a couple more questions about a couple more players. Justin Smith, not with the team right now, but he's played 9 games. He's only got 1 assist. But what does Justin bring to the Watertown Wolves that maybe we don't see on the score sheet that's very important?
I think the biggest thing with Justin is, his age. For one thing, he's forever old for a hockey player. Justin's had a very interesting life. He's very, very candid about when he was younger, drug abuse and alcohol and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he's really turned his life around. He really talks about that. Yeah. And he's very candid about it. And I think what he brings to the locker room right now is almost like that he's almost like a father to some of these kids.
Right.
He kind of keeps an eye on some of them, and he's not letting them step out of line and make stupid decisions. I think he kind of, without being a boss to him, I think he just kind of, hey, when I was a kid, this happened, and he's like a father figure to him, and I think a lot of the guys in the building, they have a ton of respect for him.
He's like a leader without being a leader, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody, like in a workplace, has somebody like that who kind of leads without being your boss or being a father figure or something like that. Even though he might be like a father figure to somebody, they just don't talk about it, right? It's just that's just the way it is. So he's an important part of the team. Okay, we have not talked about goaltending yet. Okay, where the hell did you guys find this guy?
That's funny, because when Charlie signed him, I said what you just said. I said the exact same. I go, where the hell did you find this guy? You look it up. You don't on Elite Pro Prospects or whatever. You don't find much on him. He's a kid from Stuttgart, Russia. He's a young kid. Doesn't speak much English. He's really working on it. Mm-hmm. But he came into the building and just started lighting it up, and we were all like, I couldn't find anything on it. Like you said, you looked at some of his stats, and he played minor hockey in Russia.
Sure.
All of a sudden, this kid's been standing on his head. It's crazy.
Now, I got to ask you the most important question. How do you pronounce his last name? I want to make sure that I'm saying it right. And after you say it here on the air, I'm going to go back and listen to this and then repeat it about 5 times to make sure I get it right.
Yeah, it's Anton Borodkin. Borodkin, yep.
Borodkin.
Just the way it's spelled.
All right, well, listen, we used to have a Borvieski here on the Binghamton Senators back in the day, and so we'd always call him Boro. So I think Borokin, instead of, Borodkin. So, So trust me, I can screw that up just based on prior, pronunciations that I've done for Binghamton Senators. But he's got good numbers, and he's just playing well, and he's got 9 wins on the season, no losses in regulation, just an overtime loss. A really good, solid pickup. Yeah,
he's been a great addition. He's fun to watch. He's a lot of fun to watch. The other night, a couple of times, and I don't know how he gets tangled up, because sometimes he'll come out of the goal a little bit, and he'll lose a stick. Mm-hmm. And then he's flopping all over and throwing his pads or his glove or whatever and still making these stupid saves.
After all these years, you've seen, championships. You've seen good years. You've seen bad years. How far does it take a lot to get you excited? Or once you get to the rink, you're like, okay, it's game day. I'm ready to broadcast. I'm going to have a lot of fun. I know last year you had, the injury, right, which kind of slowed things down for you and everything. When you're coming in now this year, you've had all these years of broadcasting. Do you still get up as quickly and as fast as you did before?
Oh, I absolutely love that I get to do this. Sometimes to the point where I get so excited that I get talking way too fast, and I need to settle down because I start making mistakes.
Yeah.
But no, I love that I get to do this.
Yeah, well, you're New York born. I don't care where you grew up in New York or whatever. We all talk fast. It's just the nature. Right. It's just the nature of New York. From New York City to Buffalo, we all talk pretty fast. And there might be some country folk mixed in with all of us. They still talk fast too. Jeff, let me ask you this question. We're talking about YouTube and being on YouTube. It's still through Steve Weed, right? That's you guys' production company?
Yeah, Steve Weed Productions. Steve and I worked for a number of years together. Mm-hmm. I used to announce at a number of racetracks in New York State, dirt tracks, and worked with Steve a lot at doing that stuff. So I've known him for quite a while. He's like me. He's an old guy, so I don't know how much time he's got left in this gig. But he's easy to work with. He lets me just do my thing, and basically all I do is talk. He takes care of everything else. He and Connor Lalone do the cameras and all the technical stuff, I basically walk in, put on a headset, and talk. So,
well, it's a great production. They do a great job. I know we're lucky in Binghamton and Watertown to have great, people doing that kind of video production. In this league, it's really important. And it's really great to have, the production values that we have and to get things done. Jeff, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the games on Friday and Saturday. I think Binghamton and Watertown are going to put on a show for both fan bases, without a doubt. And we'll see how things kind of pan out. I think it's going to be very interesting. It could be a split again like it was last time.
It absolutely could. Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. He is Jeff Barrett from the Watertown Wolves. Jeff, thank you so much.
Oh, always a pleasure, man. I'm glad you called to ask me to do this. This was kind of neat, and I love listening to your show whenever I get an opportunity. And one of these nights I'm going to come down and just sit up there with you and Gary and everybody and hang out and watch a hockey game.
That would be perfect. You are so welcome. I'll make sure that Brooks Hill, who is awesome, you know Brooks and everything. We'll get you in there. We'll get you up in the press box with us. You could call a game too if you want, but yeah.
I tell you, last year when Brooks won the award, I was so happy for him. He's a very talented young man, and he's one I think that Binghamton's going to have to work to hang on to in a year or two. He's going to be going places. So.
No, I totally agree with you. Absolutely, he's so young, and he has such an opportunity ahead of him. But Jeff, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
No, thank you.
And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. What a great show we had here. We got to talk about a lot of different things. We talked to Jeff Barrett from the Watertown Wolves. Thank you, Jeff, very much. I hope you have a very, very good holiday and a happy Thanksgiving. And, of course, we got to talk to Brant Sherwood. He was on his way. I'm pretty sure that as I'm still recording this here at just about quarter after 10 o'clock on Wednesday evening, he's probably already on his way to Philly to spend some time with family on this holiday. I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank Joanne and Emma for coming up and saying hello, Kelsey and Taylor for coming up and saying hello as well. Thank you very much, everybody, for all the gratitudes. I am thankful for all of you for being a part of my life and being a part of the Power Play Post Show. It's been great. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. If you go out shopping on Black Friday, have fun, enjoy, but be safe as well. And if you have to travel tomorrow or on Thanksgiving Day, if you're listening to this in the car or whatever it might be, just be safe with all the weather that's going to be out there. So the Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all of your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. Thank you to Rob Lapolis, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, as well as Watertown Wolves broadcaster Jeff Barrett and Brant Sherwood from the Binghamton Black Bears. Thank you for listening. I am Bob Howard, and we'll talk to you next time on Sunday as we recap the Watertown Wolves 2 games, the home and home series. Let's see how the Binghamton Black Bears do. They were successful tonight as they beat the Danbury Hat 3-2. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.